Like footage has emerged, proving how Caitlin Clark got hurt.
Big breaking news out of the WNBA.
Caitlin Clark will be sidelined for at least 2 weeks. Many WNBA fans are calling out the referee problem.
The referees literally turned their back.
They held accountable.
They tried to hide it. At first, it was just a line on an injury report. Left quad strain. No context, no replay, no real answers. Caitlin Clark, the face of women's basketball, suddenly sidelined.
It has been announced by the Indiana Fever that she will be out for 2 weeks minimum following a quad strain.
It is a new injury. This is not the injury that she was dealing with during preseason.
It didn't feel right. The timing was off. The footage didn't add up. And then, almost as quickly as the news broke, a new video surfaced online. Grainy, raw, but undeniable. Clark wincing, Clark limping, and the moment everyone missed, the collision that may have caused it all, overlooked by the officials as play continued. For fans, it wasn't just frustration, it was fury. The same referees who let her get hacked, shoved, and slammed game after game had now overseen a play that may have taken Caitlin Clark off the court.
Caitlin Clark is being roughed up, but the physical wear and tear on Caitlin Clark, I'm not surprised that 2 weeks into the season, she's already got an injury.
The same referees who ignored a clear foul in the dying seconds of a pivotal game were now under fire. And just as the outrage reached its boiling point, a report quietly emerged. One of the lead officials involved had been suspended. No press release, no camera, just a silent move behind the scenes, hoping fans wouldn't notice. They did.
After every single game, WNBA players, fans, coaches are all complaining about the referees, and they have shown that they're not going to change anything because the referees continue to be horrible.
What started as a preseason precaution has snowballed into something much deeper. A scandal about WNBA officiating, lack of protection for star players, and a league grappling with an influx of new eyes it wasn't prepared for.
This is a WNBA problem. And as more and more eyeballs are watching this league, it becomes growingly an issue. The officiating feels you never have a true grasp on what it's going to be.
This isn't just about an injury. It's about a system cracking under pressure. Clark, the league's golden ticket, has become the target of reckless fouls and questionable no calls, while the people in stripes seem more protected than the athletes they're paid to monitor.
Rookie Caitlin Clark was subject to several intentional fouls. There were some suspect calls at the end of that game, and a lot of people felt like the WNBA finals were actually rigged.
And now, with new footage leaked and accountability finally catching up, the truth is bubbling to the surface. Caitlin Clark's injury might not have been an accident.
She was cleared to play, but she re-aggravated. Which game do I believe it was? The Atlanta Dream game, that Ryan Howard game. Ryan Howard was all over Caitlin Clark. Elbow, shoulders, pushing on her, applying pressure to that leg, which led up to this injury.
And someone just paid the price. But is it too little, too late? Stick around, because what we uncovered will change how you see the WNBA forever. Type CC100 if you're a real Caitlin Clark fan.
If this injury does anything, it should be a wake-up call to the WNBA, the Players Association, the team owners, that just like that, all this fanfare, all this interest, all this newfound attention on the league can disappear overnight.
It was supposed to be just another game, another sold-out crowd, another chance for Caitlin Clark to rewrite history with her signature deep threes and no-look dimes. But something was off. Even before the official announcement, eagle-eyed fans began to notice it. Her movement wasn't as fluid, her explosiveness muted. Then came the shocking update from the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark was out for at least 2 weeks with a left quad strain.
Big injury news in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark is going to miss the next 2 weeks with a quad strain. That would be 4 games that she is going to miss at minimum.
Just like that, the league's brightest star was sidelined. But what raised eyebrows wasn't just the injury, it was the silence around how and when it happened. This wasn't the same minor tweak from the preseason. That earlier injury had already sparked concern after she appeared on the injury report with a vague left leg issue.
Caitlin Clark is the driving force behind the interest in the Fever and the interest in the WNBA at large. as the Indiana Fever put out the report, the status update for the first preseason game against the Washington Mystics, and Caitlin Clark, the only player on it, listed as questionable with a left leg injury.
Fans panicked, but reassurances came fast. She looked fine at practice. She was moving well. It was likely just load management. But now, this was different. The team's official statement confirmed it. This was a new injury, a quad strain.
You do have to wonder if this is something that has been nagging her. Stephanie White said it was a new injury. There was some question.
She had a minor quad strain in the preseason that was well managed. Now, here's the issue. She was cleared to play just before the start of the season, but then re-aggravated.
A soft tissue issue that requires careful recovery. No timeline beyond the vague, at least 2 weeks. And when that kind of uncertainty surrounds a player who hasn't missed a game since 2017, it doesn't just rattle fans. It sets off alarm bells.
All right, she's itching to get back. This is a young lady who hasn't missed a game in 8 years, going back to her high school career. So she's not used to being in this position where she has to watch her teammates play while she's on the sidelines, on the bench. Now, based on all your expertise and quad injuries that you've witnessed over the years, what is the timeline for her to recover from this injury?
Well, it looks like a reactivation of the initial injury she had in preseason, which was also minor. So 2 weeks is the right time frame to really shut her down, let it rest, control the potential swelling that can develop in the thigh.
You could feel the collective breath hold across the basketball world. This is a player who logged 185 consecutive games between Iowa and the Fever. Never missed a night, never asked out, never complained. Caitlin Clark has been an Iron Woman, someone who carries not just her team, but the league.
Who had appeared in 185 consecutive games between her career at Iowa and her time with the Indiana Fever. 139 games with the Iowa Hawkeyes. She never missed one.
Obviously, Caitlin's carrying a lot on her shoulders. A big star that is coming to a lot of these buildings. And
so when she was suddenly pulled out of the lineup, the speculation erupted. Some pointed to the relentless schedule. Others wondered if the physicality of the league, especially how it's been allowed to escalate unchecked, was finally catching up to her. And then, almost on cue, came the footage. It wasn't part of the broadcast. It didn't show up in post-game highlights. But fans dug into replays and practice clips and found something chilling. A limp, a subtle grimace, a moment where Clark absorbs contact and keeps playing, but not quite the same afterward. And yet, no whistle, no review, no help. Just more minutes, more screens, more bodies thrown her way.
And this is the worst one. There's one foul. There's two fouls. Then she holds her, watch this, with her shoulder and on her arm when she follows through and then fouls her for the fourth time on her arm. It's cheating. It's plain as day. The haters will say she got locked up. Yeah, if you're fouling the whole game. But I'm going through this entire game. The corrupt refs gave this game to New York and they still barely won.
And it's in that silence, that lack of protection, where the real injury occurred. Because it wasn't just her leg that gave out. It was the trust that she'd be protected by the very league she's elevating.
It took us halfway through the season. This year, it took us 4 games for Stephanie White to say, I've had enough.
I thought she got fouled. You know, I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games.
This wasn't just another athlete tweaking a muscle mid-game. This was the WNBA's biggest draw being pushed to the edge, physically and symbolically, while everyone looked the other way. And now that she's gone, even temporarily, the consequences are starting to ripple. The Fever's offense disrupted, attendance numbers under watch, and the league's image on trial.
Caitlin Clark, somebody who was responsible for 26.5% of all WNBA economic activity last season, including revenue from merchandise, ticket sales, and television.
Caitlin Clark out at least 2 weeks waited, but can the WNBA maintain without her? Can the WNBA pack arenas draw ratings?
After her injury was announced, the game on June 7th, the tickets were originally $86. Same seats, now $25.
And yet, even as fans demanded answers, what they got next wasn't clarity, it was controversy. Because when you start connecting the dots between that injury, the officiating, and what came next, it's hard not to ask. Was Caitlin Clark set up to fail? Before Caitlin Clark's injury became a headline, officiating had already become a firestorm. Game after game, Clark found herself at the center of intense physical play.
The referees just exposed their hand so bad, bro. I mean, they just didn't care no more. They didn't care. The world was watching how bad the cause was. They didn't care at all. They was going to get their issue off against the Fever no matter what. And I'm here to tell you, that's exactly what went down, bro. They have an agenda against Caitlin Clark.
Hip checks, arm grabs, blatant contact, and somehow the whistle stayed silent. It wasn't just missed calls, it was the consistency of how she was officiated.
And I think that's a foul.
You think that's a foul?
I think she gets her arm. Here's the thing, most refs aren't gonna blow the whistle in that situation. And I understand the frustration that I think comes the most with officiating is the inconsistencies of officiating.
Fans began noticing a disturbing pattern. Defenders could push the limits on Clark in ways that would never fly in men's basketball. The so-called rookie treatment wasn't about growing pains, it was about negligence. And then came that Liberty game. The footage doesn't lie. Clark was targeted all night, picked up full court, pushed off her spots, and knocked off balance on several plays.
They have an agenda against Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. There was 3 referees. None of them turned their head to even look at Caitlin Clark.
But what triggered outrage wasn't just the physicality, it was the final minutes. With the game on the line, Caitlin drove hard, took contact, and got nothing. No foul, no review, no explanation. The Fever's bench erupted, fans screamed at their screens, and Clark herself immediately turned to the refs, arms raised, eyes wide, looking for any acknowledgement.
Y'all see what's happening right here? That is a WNBA referee turning his back to Caitlin Clark and the Fever. Oh my God. I mean, he literally got his back turned, ignoring Caitlin. I mean, this is bad. This is bad. This is beyond bad, bro. I can't even lie. Dude's got his whole back turned to Caitlin and Sophie, bro.
Nothing. A blatant missed call and no accountability. That one moment where a foul could have shifted the outcome, exposed everything wrong with the way the WNBA protects its stars, or doesn't. And just as fans were still digesting that, another report quietly dropped. One of the referees from that game had been suspended, not reassigned, not given a warning, suspended. There was no official league announcement, no press conference, no statement of wrongdoing. It was the kind of disciplinary action that usually happens behind closed doors.
The problem that a lot of us have with the referees is it's either very physical and they're calling everything, or they're missing calls. There seems to be inconsistencies in how the referees are calling certain games.
But this time, fans were watching. The optics were damning. This wasn't a routine mistake. This was fallout. And when you looked at how Clark was officiated, not just in that game, but across multiple matchups, it became impossible to ignore the pattern. She wasn't being protected. She was being exposed.
Let me show you an example of why Caitlin Clark fans are claiming that the WNBA not stepping in to protect their cash cow, the WNBA not stepping in to protect their only draw, their only star, could have led to this injury. Now, that was just a very brief glimpse into what Caitlin Clark is dealing with 44 games a year.
Let's talk about screen calls, because that's where it gets even messier. WNBA referees have become notorious for calling offensive fouls on screens, often inconsistently and often against Clark's teammates. These questionable whistles stall momentum, kill plays, and leave Clark vulnerable to traps without help. It's as if the rules change when she's on the floor, and when fans, coaches, and analysts started speaking up, the league's response? Blame the fans. Articles emerged implying that new viewers just didn't understand WNBA physicality, that what looked like fouls were just part of the game.
said the reason that people are complaining is because they haven't watched the WNBA before, and these are just new fans who don't understand. But there's clearly an issue. Brittany Griner left a sideline interview to go yell at the refs. Just had Coach Stephanie White after the Liberty game call out the referees in the most blatant way, say that it's egregious, it's disrespectful, but they're not listening to them.
But that excuse wore thin when seasoned analysts, former players, and even opposing coaches began voicing concerns. The real bombshell came when insiders revealed how referees are instructed. Turns out, WNBA officials don't always call the game based on personal discretion. They follow directives from a competition committee, a group made up of coaches, general managers, and most importantly, stakeholders. And here's the catch. Those stakeholders decide how physical the league should be. In other words, the very people benefiting from chaos on the court are setting the tone. Referees, they're just the messengers, the protectors of the product, not the players. So when Caitlin Clark repeatedly gets slammed, hacked, or bodied without justice, it's not just bad officiating, it's a deliberate strategy.
It's the Caitlin Clark disrespect. And what I mean by that is you've got somebody who is obviously the most popular player in basketball. You got somebody that I would argue maybe a top 5 most popular athlete in the United States of America. All right. You got this athlete in a league that nobody's been watching, never turned a profit, and your system is broken against that team.
That's why this suspension matters. It's the first visible crack in a system that's been hiding behind closed-door decisions. Fans demanded blood after that Liberty game, and for once, someone behind the whistle was held accountable. But was it real accountability or just a sacrificial move to protect the larger structure? That's the question now, because if the league is willing to bench a ref, it means even they can't deny what's happening anymore. Caitlin Clark wasn't just mistreated, she was unprotected in plain sight. And with one referee now out of the picture, the league is finally being forced to face the fallout it tried so hard to avoid. It started as a rumor, something shared in whispers on social media, tucked into Reddit threads and TikTok breakdowns. Then came the clip. Shaky, zoomed in, filmed from the stands, but clear enough to ignite a firestorm. Caitlin Clark taking contact on a hard screen, stumbling awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable as she limped back into the play. No whistle, no timeout, no check-in from the refs. Play continued, and Clark did what she always does. She fought through it. But that one moment, buried in game footage, felt like the smoking gun. This wasn't just an unfortunate strain. It was a warning sign that went ignored until it was too late.
Felines head coach Stephanie White, she was complaining about her team not getting a whistle, not being respected. And this is the end result. The only draw in your league, the only player capable of selling tickets, is potentially out for an extended period of time. What the hell are you gonna do now?
Fans didn't just watch the clip. They dissected it. They slowed it down, enhanced the audio, circled frames, analyzed her body mechanics before and after. The conclusion? Clark had likely been hurt long before the official announcement. And what's worse, the signs were there. During broadcasts, you could see her wincing when pivoting, favoring her left side during fast breaks. Still, she wasn't pulled. No protective protocol, no medical flag. The fever kept her on the floor, and the referees allowed her to be hunted on every possession. And while other leagues would have at least paused to review such an incident, here, silence. That silence has become deafening, especially now that the WNBA's internal structure is being dragged into the light. According to league insiders and whistleblowers cited in reports, the referees don't truly control the game flow. Instead, they follow marching orders from a competition committee dictated by, you guessed it, stakeholders. These are not basketball purists. These are people invested in ratings, narratives, and league branding. They wanted the WNBA to look tougher, more gritty, more physical. And with Caitlin Clark drawing record-breaking crowds, she became the perfect lightning rod. Let her play through contact. Let her absorb the hits. She can take it. Except this time, she couldn't.
Stakeholders is the first group of people that this referee mentions. Stakeholders, coaches, governors, and general managers. Those are the people calling all the shots.
What fans learned next only added fuel to the fire. The referees overseeing Caitlin's recent games weren't seasoned veterans. They were relatively new, some with experience limited to high school and G League circuits. One official in question was reportedly fast-tracked through the system with minimal top-level exposure. And yet these were the people given the responsibility of officiating the most watched, most hyped, most scrutinized games in WNBA history. How is that even possible? The answer lies in a flawed pipeline that values rapid expansion over experience. With the league exploding in popularity thanks to Clark, officials were tossed into the spotlight unprepared. And Caitlin was the one paying the price. Then came the quiet confirmation, a suspension. Not because of that one missed foul, but because the league realized the damage had gone public. With millions of fans now scrutinizing every angle, with leaked footage making its rounds across platforms, they had no choice. One ref benched. Not because justice demanded it, but because image required it. But fans aren't satisfied with a fall guy. They want to know how many more injuries could have been prevented, how many more moments of impact were brushed off in the name of let them play basketball. Because for all the talk of protecting the game's future, Caitlin Clark is the future. And now the league has to reckon with how it almost broke her before her rookie season even got started.
And when you've got someone who moves markets, you have to pay attention to that person.
She's the reason the WNBA just won the lottery. Without Caitlin Clark, nobody cares about any of these players or the league.
What we're witnessing isn't just a controversy, it's a reckoning. A superstar left exposed, a fan base rising in protest, and a league forced to confront the uncomfortable truth that the very system built to elevate the game has been quietly undermining its biggest star. Leaked footage opened the floodgates, and now the WNBA can no longer hide behind phrases like missed calls or rookie learning curves. Because when your most valuable player limps off the court while the whistle stays silent, you haven't just failed Caitlin Clark. You failed the sport. The truth is, this was never just about a quad strain. It was never just about one referee or a missed call. This was about what happens when a league isn't ready for its own rising star. Caitlin Clark wasn't just another rookie. She was the phenomenon the WNBA had waited decades for. She brought the lights, the crowds, the energy. But instead of meeting that moment with protection, professionalism, and proper oversight, the system let her down, and the damage was caught on camera. Now that footage is out, and the illusion is shattered. Fans aren't guessing anymore. They've seen it. They've seen the hits that didn't draw whistles, the fouls that went ignored, and the silent pain Clark pushed through while the league looked the other way. One suspended ref won't be enough. Not when the problem runs deeper. Not when the system is built to protect stakeholders more than stars. The WNBA got its wish. Caitlin Clark brought the world's attention. But now the world is watching how the league protects her, and so far it's failing the test.
This increased physicality that Caitlin Clark has been dealing with, it's been going on for over a year now. Why in the hell has Kathy Engelbert not stepped in and done something about it? Over the weekend, Felines head coach Stephanie White, she was complaining about her team not getting a whistle, not being respected. And this is the end result.
But here's the thing about Caitlin Clark. You can knock her down, but you can't keep her out. Her absence may be temporary, but her impact is permanent. When she returns, and she will, the spotlight will burn even brighter. And now the league has a choice: evolve and rise to the moment, or let its own success crumble under the weight of mismanagement. Because the fans, they're done being silent, they're done being gaslit, and they're demanding accountability not just for Clark's injury, but for every injustice that led to it. This isn't just a turning point in Caitlin Clark's rookie season. This is a turning point for the WNBA. And if the league truly wants to build a legacy around its brightest star, then it better start acting like she matters. Because she does. To the fans, to the future, and to the very survival of the game.